Grandma Slider decided we're gonna leave this here place because things ain't right. Okay? She feared for her life and the lives of her boys. No girls, a bunch of boys. So late one evening, she gathered her children, which we believe Earl said were 10, and what little belongings they had and could carry, and headed west with no particular destination in mind. This was around the year 1868 to 1869, where the positions of wagon headed out. Now that's pretty brave within itself. She's a little bit of a thin lady, bunch of little boys. Maybe she thought the boys were protected, headed west. It is not known how many of the 10 children to this union left Mississippi with Grandma Slider, but it is known that 5 of the 10 arrived in Bastrop, Texas with Grandma Slider. Now I'm going to jump over a little bit. My father, Frank Slider, lived in and around Temple, Texas, all of my youth. Now I used to be young too. And for some reason or another, he was always traveling to Bastrop, Texas. I didn't know the connection there. But he had brothers and whatever off in Bastrop, Texas. Might have been going down there to borrow a little change or leave some change, but he had ties to Bastrop, Texas, okay? So they arrived in Bastrop, Texas. It's been 5 or 6 years ago. I was playing on the computer reader one day and I was doing some genealogy. And I get to a nice looking website from Bastrop, Texas. I'm gonna see if there's some sliders down here. Well, I found a slider too. Then I got this, I think it's where it says slider, I don't know where it says marriages. No sliders listed. I kept looking, and I found a section where they had slider marriages. Starting around 1880 to about 1930, 38 or something like that. 5 or 6 pages. And this is how they kept marriages back in those days, and most governmental institutions. You know what a legal size sheet of paper is? Like a bank ledger book, a big old way looking book. They go in line by line. Groom's name, bride's name, date they got married. I don't know how many were. I thought I gave a copy of them to my daughter. 6 or 7 pages of sliders in Bastrop, Texas. Over a period of 7, 80 years, getting married. That's a whole lot of sliders. That's a whole lot. So that's why we started off in Mississippi, and I'm going to back up. It said early on in the history that we didn't know, Earl didn't know where the sliders were in Mississippi. I finally found them. I need to call my daughter. I found out where we came from, Mississippi. Well, everything I found in this good news I called it to her because I won't forget it. She'll only remember. We came from a place in Mississippi called Beat 4, Holmes County, Mississippi. That's B-E-A-T, Holmes County, Mississippi. That's in central north Mississippi. Okay? I was happy that I called Sandra and said, this is what I found. And I kind of forget it for a while, and I'm looking later on. Got to know who that little lady was that brought them kids from Mississippi to Texas. And I found the name of Nancy Wellington. When I found it, Nancy Wellington Slider. And I finally tied her back to a fellow named William Slider. I said, God damn, that's my great-great-grandfather, great-great-grandmother. Okay? Nancy Wellington Slider was the one who got that wagon and loaded up some of those 10 kids and drove to Bastrop, Texas. William Slider was the one that the white folks shot and killed. I guess I have to assume that, okay? So she left town. Okay, it says here, Grandma Slider was a very strong and disciplined woman, a very dark complexion with short hair. She was considered a beautiful black woman with outstanding African features, okay? So Earl didn't imagine that he'd seen some sliders. Used to tease Earl, like, Earl, you got a bunch of little bitty, pretty daughters. That's all right, you got a shotgun also. Okay. Okay. It says, traveling conditions were extremely bad for blacks during this time. Imagine, this is back in the 1860s, 1870s, okay? They traveling across the South. You get from Mississippi to Texas, yeah, they go to the parts of Louisiana, some went to the parts of Alabama, and then up in Bastrop, Texas, Central Texas. And Texas used to be called the hanging state. So, but Grandma Slider was determined to find a safe place for her children, and that was Bastrop, Texas. She feared one day the white folks who killed her husband would do harm to her children also. And it says, due to the tremendous pressure on Grandma Slider, she took sick and had to stop that journey in Bastrop, Texas. And that's the base of all of our family in Bastrop, Texas. If you look on your little tote bag, it says from Beatful, Holmes County, Mississippi, which is where we kind of started out. There were some in other places, but our part of the Sliders started out there. Ended up in Bastrop, Texas. And from there, all over the world. Okay? This young man is in California. Anthony's in Dallas. Son's in DeSoto. She's in Richmond, Texas. So Sylvia, where do you live right now? You in Dallas, you out in the suburb?
Louisville.
Where?
Louisville.
Okay. We're all over.
Temple.
We're all over. Temple, Texas, my favorite city. As of this day, no one really knows her planned destination, but we know where she ended up. So Grandma Slider and the 5 known children that arrived in Bastrop, all boys, ended up on a farm owned by a Caucasian family by the name of Triggs. This farm was known to all as the Triggs family. They all began sharecropping with the Triggs family. Grandma Slider became very ill and died around the year of 1882. Some other bits and pieces about this. My grandfather, Frank Slider, was in Bastrop, Texas, working for the Triggs when his last parent was Andrew Jackson Slider Sr. passed away. He was a toddler. My grandfather didn't know too much about his family history because he couldn't get it passed down to him by word of mouth because he was so young. My father knew even less. I'm so happy I was able to find some of this history before my father left him, went on to glory, and share it with him. I was happy about that. So when Andrew Jackson Slider passed away, my grandfather, that is, was still a toddler. The Triggs family asked if they could have my grandfather and raise him. Okay? So he was raised by this white family. He was about 16, he ran away and got married. Now I imagine that the Triggs' background was Slavic and some Polish, a Czech, whatever. Because my grandfather formed an area in Temple where a lot of Polish and Czech, and he could talk that stuff. Jacques and all that kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, most of his buddies on the weekend drinking pearl beer were Slavic people. But he'd been raised by whites, so that was his association, okay? That was his association. Of the family that didn't arrive with Grandma Slider in Bastrop, Texas, I stumbled across some other Sliders in Oklahoma. And then I got another point from my father. He said that when he was about 8 years old, farming became pretty bad for his father, then in the Temple area. So they pulled up stakes, went to Oklahoma, where my grandfather worked for a while with some of his uncles in Oklahoma. And at some point, I had the names of those, but I'm not too structured. I lost it. So they lived 2 years in this county in Oklahoma with some of my grandfather's uncles who came across the way and at some point left Mother Slider and went to Oklahoma. And one day I hope to find those. I hope to find those names. My father was so happy to hear that some of his people that he was not aware of came in from Mississippi and cut out and went up to that area. Now I'm jumping around a little bit more. I'm going to back up to something else that I did in my life. I'm a boring kind of fellow. I really am kind of shy, believe it or not. I talk sometimes. But at some point in the past, I had an occupation that required that I travel a whole lot. And I don't know about the female gender, but when you get on per diem, you're traveling to hotels, a lot of the guys get up at evening time and go out to a bar. Well, I was too cheap to do that. I was trying to make something out of that travel money. So what I do, I go into my hotel room and pick up the telephone directory. How many remember seeing telephone directories? Some of you have never heard of telephone directory. I go through the white pages to see if I can find a slider. I don't care if I'm in Michigan, Mississippi, or Falkland, if I find a slider. If I find a slider name, I felt dumb for doing it, but I'm kind of hard to do it anyhow. I called him up and said, my name is L.G. Slider. And I have this little hobby thing that I do. I travel a lot. If I find a slider in a different city, I call and I just want to know who you are. I find sliders all over the country. Sometimes that slider would have some ties back to sliders that I'm aware of in Texas. Every once in a while I go out to San Francisco with my youngest son. That's his favorite city to travel in. And we riding down the street one day, Slider's Restaurant. I go in there and introduce myself. And this young Hispanic man must think I'm crazy because he don't know what I'm. My name is Slider, I'm from Texas. Well, see, can I talk to the owner? He said, you want to order a burger? No, I don't want no burger. Okay. But there are 2 restaurants in San Francisco owned by Sliders. But I've since they're Caucasian, they're not this, okay? In Houston, Texas, on West Time, on one of the main drags in Houston, used to be a Sliders Bar and Grill. Big white guy also, okay? And doing genealogy research, I found a whole group of Sliders in a cemetery in Cherokee County. I thought, they must be my kinfolk. They got all names, like there's a Bessie Slider in the matriarch over there, and there's a James Slider. I didn't find no LG Slider. All names matching ours. But the further I looked, it had white behind all our names. So I've been trying for years to try to tie them back into, we kind of got our names at some point in time, okay? Except Linda pointed out to me that my great-grandfather was a freedman, so I don't know, okay? But we're all over. Back in Dallas, back in the late 40s and the early 50s, opened the white pages, there were about 6 or 7 Sliders in there, half white and half black. And these are things that excite me, maybe it don't bother y'all, okay? And there's a whole lot of Sliders that used to be Sliders that you might not be aware of. When we used to have the reunion down in Bastrop, Texas, there would be more people there called Hootie and Hyder, which came from Slider women marrying into other names. I think my cousin went to Victoria recently and looked up a lot of who died. They call him Hyder. I call him Hootie. My great-grandmother's name was Hyder. A lot of Hyders also. But I just like to talk about Sliders. I don't say if we're great. I don't say if we're good. I think we're just interesting, okay? And we've done a little bit of everything in life. And my interest really began in the 75-page document from Earl Slider. I don't know how in the world he did it, okay? He had to be a pretty smart man because there's a lot of good detailed stuff there. I think he might have stopped off with my 2 grandkids, who are now like 36 and 34. But this is 1994. And since then, I had some more grandkids, a lot more grandkids. And too many, almost, a whole bunch of great grandkids. But if you didn't get a copy of it, to me, right away, I realized, okay, I went to Office Depot and I made a copy for Bessie, for Sandra, for Mike, for all my family. And it's good because I misplace mine sometimes. And the value of it is, it shows some hard work, which the Sliders are known for. It shows some keen work, being real smart. Hard work. You hear sometimes I'm talking about tell me when your time is up, because I got a lot of things to say.
Yeah, your time is up there. Some of us got to get back on the road. I'll post this video on YouTube.
Let me say one more thing about hard work.
Okay.
Let me say one more thing about hard work. Alice Slider. You remember Alice Slider? Alice Slider was about your height, but about half your girth. You know what he did most of his life? Construction work. Construction work. But when he finally retired, he was a finisher. That means you're doing a sidewalk, he do the finishing part of it. If you're doing a curve, he do the little curve comes to your driveway. Okay. But he's a little bitter man. But he's a smart man also. Okay? And we've had people like Linda come along, Teresa, Linda's son.